interesting thing is happening right now as we're driving. We've just left Kansi. We put 90 litres of fuel in the back tank. We want to get to the Makati. We want to be as light as possible. We do need a reasonable amount of fuel. And we decided, let's fill up the front tank, leave that alone. Back tank, enough to get to the pans. By the time we get there, we will be empty. Now, the car's running terribly. I'm sitting at 100 kilometers an hour. It won't go any faster. My EGT, exhaust gas temperatures, are sitting and hovering just under 600 degrees. Now, normally, they should be sitting at 400 degrees in this configuration. So we've got a problem. We've got a mechanical problem. Now, the obvious thing is to think, okay, well, the car was behaving beautifully yesterday. What have we done even this morning? What have we done? We put in fuel. So it has to be fuel. The question now is, while driving along, we've got bad fuel. What is it doing to the engine? I mean, I know that they're underpowered. EGTs are very high, which is suggesting to me that the burning is very inefficient. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, we've got two options now. So, because we found that the problem is giving us this kind of like jerking sensation while we're driving.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the vehicle's not getting enough fuel. So two things could be happening in my sense. One is we could have picked up a silt buildup, a particle buildup in the fuel, which is from the tank, the Bowser. So the tank was very low. We got the dregs of the tank, went into our tank, and that's now causing a problem.
I want us to close.
Yeah, you just overtake him.
Parked on the wrong side of the road.
So what we've got is we've got a particle buildup. So junk from the Bowser, from their tanks, have actually now gone into our fuel tank. So you think this is
contamination?
Well, there's two things. Or there's fuel contamination. Now, some of these garages have very old tanks, and these old tanks either have water condensation inside the tank. They don't always clean the tanks out often enough.
Right.
Or, in very rare cases, they go and they mix paraffin with the diesel to bulk it up. So what you do is you get in, you fill your car up, you hope that you've got the best fuel. Normally I would say check the fuel before you put it up, but I wouldn't expect it in a town like Hansi. It's a big place.
It's a big town. And
there's a high turnover of fuel. So all I can think of, one of two things. We either got the dregs of the Bowser, and their tank was low, so we've got a particle filter. Our filter slowly blocking up.
But now hold on a minute. If we had a blocked filter, we wouldn't be getting enough fuel, and the EGT would be lower. If we're over-fueling or we've got bad fuel, the EGT would be higher. Isn't that suggesting that in fact we've got bad fuel, not a lack of fuel getting into the engine?
Yes, I'd say the same thing. I think that the fact that the EGTs are picking up shows us that the fuel that's going into the engine is not actually enough.
Not enough quantity?
No, not quantity.
No,
quality.
Quality. Yes.
Quality.
Yeah, okay.
Because quality is actually, in my mind, is showing me that the quality of fuel being burnt at the moment is not producing the power we need to sustain the 100 kilometers an hour. Now you're driving at 100 kilometers an hour, but the fuel going through is not making a nice good burn, giving nice power. Okay. So the components of the engine are heating up. So it'll be very interesting for us to actually remove the fuel filter, which is always my first line of defense.
Right.
And that's why I always say you carry enough or a good few spare fuel filters, because in us getting to Maun, we might need to change that filter more than once if it was a particle blockage. In other words, sediment and that from the filter at the back.
Right.
Even with paraffin or sometimes other contaminants.
But because of that, in this case, because of that EGT going up, it's suggesting to me that it's not a quantity, i.e. a filtration problem, it's a quality, it's just plain bad fuel.
I'm thinking the same thing. And
so
I think
will a filter then be a filter change might not not make any difference at all.
But that's the first thing you need to check, because what you want to do by looking at the filter, some of the filters in the cruisers have got a little drain on the bottom of them. So you can put a nice little glass jar, I always think of like a baby purity bottle, little glass jar, drain off some fuel into that, and just look at what it's telling you. Now fuel, this is the story we're looking for. It's going to tell us something. It's either going to tell us that the color of the diesel is not what it should be. It's milky, or it's a different color from what we'd expect the straw color to be. Diesel does vary in different parts of the world to the color, but generally, a diesel will also have a certain feel to it. If you dipped your fingers in it and rubbed your fingers on it, it's not going to evaporate. It's a good test for people not knowing if it's diesel or petrol going into their tank. So that's one good thing. We're checking color, and we're also looking for separation in the fuel. Because if there's a contaminant like water, you're going to find the water in the that's going to swap over. Your water is going to sit below, the fuel will sit on top because it's got a different viscosity. And that's why they have the fuel filters are also fuel filters and water sedimenters built into one.
Yes.
And that's why you have the drain underneath.
So you can get rid of the water.
Yeah. So you could start by just draining the fuel in the filter and have a look at that. That might tell you something in the coloration. It might also show you that there's lots of particles in it. If we've got a particle problem, I'm inclined to take that filter out, clean the housing, look carefully at the filter to see how much of a particle buildup I've got, blow the fuel back into the tank that I had sitting there, let everything settle nicely, maybe have a cup of tea, and then drain the tank into something, just 4 or 5 litres, and just see what comes out the tank.
Right.
And hopefully a lot of the particle sediment is going to wash out, and you might have to refilter that fuel through something if you desperately need it. But that really is now solutions we've got to fix.
Okay, well, let's see what happens in the next couple of hours, and by the time we get to mine, we'll make a decision.
Sounds good. As long as we keep going, I'm happy.
No, we've still got this problem with this diesel. We think it could be diesel contamination because the car's actually juddering while we drive. The filter here has actually got a drain on the side of it, and I'm going to just drain a bit of fuel into this little cup I've cut off a Coke bottle. And if we can see any problems with the fuel that we take out the filter, it may save us changing the filter. I'm either looking for contaminants or something that's dirty in the fuel. Like normally you just crack this little butterfly at the bottom of the filter and it should run out the hole of the butterfly. The diesel I've got out is actually dribbling out, so I actually think that the filter might be blocked. I can't see it for contaminants, but for sure I want to change the filter because I want a nice firm spurt of diesel out of that drain plug.
What tools do we need to...
You
need Allen keys.
Yes, I need Allen keys.
Okay, my big toolbox is buried. We can get it, but I have to take out quite a bit of stuff to get to it. Okay, we have a little bit of a problem. The fuel filter was from my previous Land Cruiser, which had exactly the same engine, different filter. This is a newer filter, so the spare part that we've been carrying all this time doesn't fit. So now what I'm doing is brought it into Bailey's Off-Road in Johannesburg. Johannesburg's on my way home, and of course he does carry all the spares, so he's going to just quickly replace the proper filter for me. But what we did to keep the vehicle running, because it got worse and worse and worse, we bought a couple of those and we just took the pipes off the standard filter and put this in line. We of course made sure that the size was correct for the piping, and we put that in and kept going. Now I want to try and determine what was in the fuel that caused us the problem. The fuel station in Guernsey was a large one. It wasn't as if we were pumping out of barrels, so we didn't think to put any special filters on it, so we literally just filled up the tank. Paul speculated that it might be paraffin. Sometimes these places will dilute the diesel with paraffin, which is cheaper, they make more profit, and it doesn't stop your vehicle, but it makes it go very badly. That doesn't look any dirtier than dirty diesel. I mean, you would expect it to be dirty, it's in a filter.
But this is not clean diesel.
It's not clean diesel. What do you mean by that? You mean something else in it?
This looks thicker than diesel.
Paraffin?
Well, we know
water?
We know that they do that across our waters for sure. We know they definitely do it, but...
So there's nothing obvious, it's just a pretty average dirty filter. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of dirt in the bottom there, but I mean, that's nothing...
It's not going to stop the car.
It shouldn't stop the car. It might lose a little bit of power, but it wouldn't stop the car.
Yeah, well, we lost a lot of power. It didn't actually stop it. It lost a lot of power.
You see now, you've got to wait for this to settle. And then you see your dirt line coming there. We'll shift it like if it was gold. How's that?
Yeah.
You see now how dirty it is there. And you compare a new filter next to it. Put the new filter next to it there, Mish.
Chris.
It's been collecting in the bottom.
So would you say it was a high level of dirt rather than contamination? Is that what you would suggest?
I'd say it's just more dirt, fine dirt particles. If we just open up the little filter you put in, and we can see what's inside there. So your dirt on your in. This is
conclusion reached. It was just pure dirty fuel, probably not contaminant, but
to tell with these things now,
you can't eliminate the fact that they might have been
But you
contaminated.
think fancy, because the thing about fancy, I mean, their tanks shouldn't be that dirty.
No, because they're turning over fuel.
Turning over
And it was
But
exactly what we thought. That's why we thought it was more likely
but
to
also
be.
the same old story, you know. Who else has had problems when they filled up a fancy that you don't know of?
Absolutely, and maybe we were the last people on the last day before the tanker arrived, and we got this much at the bottom of the tank.
You got the bottom of the tank.